A friend of mine, Carl Jacobson, who's a really prolific turner here on YouTube, very talented guy, sent me a pen, and it's a really cool pen. Check this out. So this is a maple pen, and it's got some really interesting pyrography on it. Now the pyrography just means wood burning, and it was done with a Liechtenstein, fancy machine. And I'll put a link to Carl's channel down below, so you guys, if you're interested in turning, go check him out. He's just a really crazy talented dude. A pen like this from a guy like Carl deserves a place of honor, so I've designed this kind of cool bandsaw pop-up pen box. And that's what we're gonna do today. So if you wanna see that, you're gonna have to stick around to the end of the video. Or I guess you could go just look at the thumbnail again, but you should stick around. Now crotchwood is notorious for checking and cracking. Now I've got one here, and I've got another one on the other side that are in two different locations, so I can't necessarily just hide it in the build. So what I'm gonna do is fill in those cracks with 2P10 colorant kit. Now I like this colorant kit for 2P10 because it dries really fast, and you can mix and match all these different colors to get the shade you want. Because I don't want to wait, I'm going to spray mine with a little bit of activator. After preparing the walnut that I'm going to use on the sides of this, I made some templates that I'm going to glue to the maple, which is going to make up the center of the box and the vast majority of it. Now these templates are really simple. I'm just going to cut them out on the bandsaw. Now before I do that, I need to drill some hole positions that are going to act like hinges for the pop-up part of this box. And for the pins, I'm just going to use some brad nails. And I'm using a 5/64 drill bit, which is the size for that pin. Now it doesn't really, pin size is not important. You can use whatever size pin you want, but I did mark the locations on the template so they'd be easy to find. Now a little trick for when using, especially using small drill bits like this because they get gunked up pretty easy, is to take an old paintbrush that you've used on some varnish or something and that's hardened, and use that to brush off the tip instead of your finger. It works a lot better and you won't get your finger cut. With the templates glued on and the holes drilled, the next step is the bandsaw part, to cut all the parts out on the bandsaw. Now you want to cut as close to the line as possible, but don't overdo it. If you're not comfortable getting too close, just cut it as close as you are comfortable with and then sand down to the line from there. Now on that bottom piece, cut more towards the middle section and leave the line on the bottom, because later we're going to put a false bottom on that center. Now once everything was working and it looked all good, took it over, did a little light sanding, and the next thing I need to think about is how the pen is going to sit in that center section. So I kind of traced the profile around the pen that I'm using, and I went over and cut this out on a scroll saw. Now you could use a bandsaw for this, but you need to drill a hole at the front and at the back the size of that curve, because making that type of curve on a bandsaw would be very hard or almost impossible. So after a little light sanding, I glue the cut in where I actually entered with the jigsaw, scroll saw rather, and glued that together with 2P10 and activator. Now this whole project is built with 2P10 because I don't like waiting for these small parts to set and glue up, and the 2P10 is actually very handy and plenty strong for small projects like this. So with the sanding done and the end glued back together, I'm just cutting out the base now. I'm cutting out about a 3/16 inch piece, the length of the pen, and then sanding it out flat on my sanding board. And then I'm going to glue it down to a piece of walnut, and I'm not going to, cut the piece of walnut first. I'm actually going to leave it fairly large and then glue the pen holder down to that. Now I can take that over to the bandsaw and trim away the excess without worrying about trying to cut a really small piece and possibly hurt myself. Whenever you're doing small piece projects, always use the largest form you can while you're doing your cutting, if that makes sense. Now off camera, I cut a couple of finger holds in the pen compartment, And then I took the base of this whole project and glued it to one of the walnut side panels. Now I want there to be a little bit of room between each piece and the adjacent piece. So I'm using some paper and folded up in between each piece, and then I'm drilling a hole in the pre-existing holes to create the hinge point in the side pieces. So once I have those drilled, I grabbed some of those nails that I'm using for pins and just made sure everything was working and that there were no catching points, and then marked out where the top would go on the piece of walnut, and then cut that out on the bandsaw, and then also cut it out on the second piece. So now I kind of have this profile that matches the lid and inside. Now once I had everything lined up and everything was matching, I drilled holes through the second piece of walnut, so I still have the same hinge points, and I used the first piece of walnut as my template. I hope that makes sense. Now once I had everything put together, everything was glued together, I did some sanding on it to make sure it was all, pretty, and I did that with the nails in place. I put the nails, the hinge points in place, so it keeps everything nice and smooth and even across the top. And then once I had that done, the last step was to throw some finish on it. And in this case, I'm using a spray lacquer, and I'm going to do it 3 coats and sand between each coat with a 320 grit. That walnut crotch is really just beautiful wood. I was real excited to use it. So the nails I'm just clipping off, and then I'm sanding the part that I clipped off flat. So when I push it into the box, it's flush with the side of the box. And then I'm adding a little tiny bit of 2P10 to the head of the nail, so when I push it in, it'll set or glue to the piece in the center. In this case, it'll be glued to the lid. That way the hinges won't come up. And the same thing for the pen holder. Of course, once everything was done and in place, it was time to throw Carl Jacobson's beautiful pen in there and try it out. So I really like the way this one turned out. This is the second one I've made in the last couple weeks. I made this other one here that you lift the lid on and the pen pops out, or you can just push on the back and the pen pops out right there. And then this one I made for the pen Carl sent me, and you push the front right there, and the pen pops out. It's just like a little button in the front. So you gotta be careful with this one though, because if you like put a quarter right here and boom, pop it down, and it could shoot quarters across the office. You didn't hear that from me, I'm just saying. As a thank you to Carl, I'm going to send him the pen box that I made in today's video. So Carl, that's on its way to you. Thank you so much for that pen. It's really, really cool. I'll make another box for it. Also, a YouTuber who recently sent me something was Jamie Page from the UK, JP Woodworking. He sent me that. That's the Izzy Shrek. Might be hard to tell, but he superimposed my face over Shrek body and scroll sawed it out. So Jamie, thank you for that. Links for those guys in the description box below. And don't forget to check the links in some of the videos. If you have questions about the videos, a lot of times there'll be links down below that'll answer those questions or show you, what I was using in the video. So always remember to check the links. My Instagram, my website, Facebook, second channel, all that's down there. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be talking to you soon. Got some crazy stuff coming down the pipe.